What's up guys, welcome back to another video. I just got the GoPro out of the truck. We're headed inside to start again on the next thing that I may have showed you a sneak peek to in the last video for the oil pump gears. But we're walking in. I finally got everything done at work that I need to get done, so now I can start on this car. So I'll see you guys when I get inside. All right guys, we're back with the Roushcharged Mustang, and we're gonna go over here and check out what today's video is all about. So with the small stuff, for starters, this goes on the clutch pedal, essentially. Not the pedal, but what actuates it. Basically the stock one's plastic and apparently they're prone to breaking, so he got one of those. You might recognize that name, Module Motorsports Racing. This is the head cooling mod, so we have to pull the transmission in order to get to that. But since we're going to be in there, oh buddy, we got the same clutch we threw in my car. Look how pretty she is. I believe it's a twin disc, yep, just like mine, so same deal on that. And while he went ahead and got that, he also got a new flywheel. Same one I put in my car. All fancy. It's a light and steel, so that should go nicely paired with this clutch. And then lastly, we have the McLeod stainless clutch line. Now I haven't had the greatest luck with those clutch lines. Mine kept popping off when I tried to put it on when I did my clutch, so I just ended up going back to the stock one. But maybe since it's a McLeod, we'll have a better chance of making it work, but we will see later in the video. But I'm gonna go ahead and get started on this thing. First thing we need to do is disconnect the battery. I already had it loose from when I was doing the oil pump gears, so go ahead and do that because we got to mess with the starter obviously when we're pulling the transmission. So all right guys, we're in the car, so now we got to take the shifter knob off. What we got to do on these, the S197s are different. You got to get your box end wrench down here and unscrew it. Alrighty, now once you get your shifter ball off and your wing nut or whatever you want to call that off, and it looks something like that where you can move that, the next step is you can either remove this guy, but I don't like taking chances of breaking things, so take a pry tool and pop the back of this up, and then this will move. And then basically, see if I can do this in one hand and pull back on that, pull that up the rest of the way, and then you're going to have a series of electrical connections. One up there, you can see that, and then I think it's 2 or 3 back here. Alrighty, we got that. So basically you have one connection here, one right here, and then one right here. Now it's got that clip that goes into the side right there. And it's very thin plastic, so be careful. I used a fork tool just to get it out without breaking it. But once you get to this point, you are free to do what you need to do. So we're going to move this out of the way, or just toss it in there so I don't lose it. Pop that out, and we're going to take our fork tool in here and try to get this connection undone like so. Pull that back, and then we're going to try to get this guy out of there, put that to the side, and then, well, whoever worked on this didn't put this back right, but this is going to come up and out. Like so. Oh, he's got a Barton in it. Same one I got. He probably just has the shifter one though. I don't think he has the trans mount, but that's cool. But as of now, we're good. We can now lower this down. Once we get the trans and everything else loose and get the back half loose, we'll be able to get it down. Now a trick, because I've done this a time or two, put it in the most forward gear, because it's going to be coming down at an angle, and if it were in the center or even on a back gear, it's going to be more likely to hit and mar up these threads. So if you put it forward, then there's less chance of doing that. And also I'll probably do it as well. I normally tape these up just in case it does touch a little, so it doesn't screw up your threads. But I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then we'll get to the next portion. All right guys, I got that shifter all taped up, but now we're gonna do the next step, which doesn't necessarily have to be the next step, but since we're here with the car lowered down, since I've done it a billion times, I know that these bolts right here, I don't know if you can see that down there for the catalytic converter. It's really hard to see, but the only way to reach them is with a long extension through the top, and they're on both sides. All right guys, check this out. So the inside ones, we can reach from down here on both sides. Both the inside ones. Now the outside ones, that one you might be able to reach from down here, so I might just leave that be. But that one, way back there, you can see that. Not quite sure if you can. Regardless, it's right back there. That you have to get from the top. Alright, let's try this again. You can't be tight if you're a liquid. Oh wait. That's better. Alright, so it's helpful if you get a longer fork tool because there's lots of connectors up here. But there's one on this side, and obviously one on that side for both frontward O2s. So I'm going to go ahead and get these disconnected. Alright, and now all that's left is 2 on this side, 2 on this side. They're 15 mils. Don't take them out all the way. Just enough to loosen up the clamp. See how that dropped down? Now we're gonna get like a trans jack or something so we can hold up this side and disconnect this side. So got it. Now you can see all the room that clears us up for. Next, we're going to disconnect the drive shaft, and let me grab that bolt or nut and that nut. After that, and I was dumb and put it in gear like I was saying earlier, so we could get it out easier, and then forgot I got to turn the drive shaft. So luckily, I was able to pop it into neutral from down here, but as you can see. So I'm going to get a 12 point and take this drive shaft down, and then there's 2 13s right there, and then 10s down there, and we can pull the drive shaft out. So alrighty, we got all those bolts out, and now what you're gonna do, turn this drive shaft until you see a good gap like that. And you're gonna stick your pry tool in there, get some movement out of it until you can get her to come free. I feel like that's pretty free. Now all we have left to do is to take that 13 and that 13 out, and we can drop this listen to me. We can drop the drive shaft down. Alright guys, got the drive shaft out. Now, like I said earlier, we got a 10 and a 10 right here. And then we can put the trans jack right here, loosen these 4 bolts, and slowly lower the tranny down until it's down as far as it can go, essentially, because that extra room is going to give you access to those bolts for the bell housing going around, and it'll give us easier access to get the electrical connections that are on the transmission off without cutting our arms up, because I mean, look how there's not much room in there, you know. So alrighty, now we're gonna get these 10s out of here. Ow, that hurt. That's one. That's 2. Oh. Freaking live spider up there, buddy. I don't like that. Why is this thing covered in freaking spider webs and shit? You keep this thing in your garage all year or something? Maybe that one's dead. I can't tell. Anyway, so we got that down. Now we need to put the jack under this guy, like I said, and take these bolts out. So, all right, now we're gonna take this trans mount off, and I believe it's an 18. It is. Okay, and now we can lower it slowly but surely. Cool. All right, so now the next step would be to get the harnesses off the tranny, but unfortunately it's going on 7 o'clock and we close at 7 now, so I'm gonna have to call it quits for today, but I will be back tomorrow and I will see you guys then. So I'll see you guys in the next clip. All right guys, we're back. So like I was saying last night, we got to get the harness going around the transmission off. Some things like this you don't have to disconnect, but you do have to disconnect it right here. But that just goes up to the sensor up here. But anyways, we're gonna get you set up. I'm also gonna take this off just to get it out of my way so I don't smack my head into it. And then yeah, we'll go from there. Alright guys, I took off the front O2 sensors because it looked like they were poking close to the tranny, and I don't want to take a chance of breaking anything or causing me more trouble than it's really worth. So we got those out, we got the harness disconnected. All we have left to do is to take the starter out, disconnect the electrical connections for that, and then really it's just all the bolts holding the trans in, and then your clutch line. Alrighty, as you can see, starter's out. all we have left to do now is the bolts holding it to the engine and that clutch line, which I'll wait till last because it's gonna piss fluid everywhere and I don't feel like getting covered in it. So this really goes for any transmission, but typically you're gonna want to leave this one and this one still in there. So I'm gonna take all the other ones out and then leave those two, and then when it's time to pull the trans, we'll pull those out. Alrighty guys, so you're gonna want yourself an extension with a swivel socket and a 13 and whatever preference of Ugga Dugga you prefer. I'm using this stubby Milwaukee. Now there's another one up top that's really hard to get to, so you have to get an even longer extension and get it through the top part of the trans, like coming from the back towards the tail shaft. Alright, now I don't know if you can see that or not, but up there's a little clip that goes on the stud for the bolt. Alright, so if you can see that up there, there is right there Christmas tree clip looking thing that's on our bolt, so we need to take that off of there if I can get it. Gotcha. Now we can get that bolt out. Alright, now you're going to take your long extension, preferably with some sort of 1/2 inch, and then you're going to stick her up there. There's the top, basically inside the transmission tunnel, and try to import. And we got it. There went that. Alright, and now that's everything except for those last two. And just so you know, there's 7 bolts on this side. So we got 1, 2, 3, which we haven't taken out yet, 4, which we haven't taken out yet, 5 and 6, and 7 up there. And then on this side you got 8, 9. Now this you're probably going to want to use an Ugga Dugga for, because there's a crap ton of Loctite on them. But I'm going to go ahead and use my magnet and take out all these bolts, and then we can take that trans line off. And then once we do that, we got 2 bolts, put a trans jack up here, and we can pull the sucker out. Alrighty, so if you look, this guy right there is where our hydraulic line connects to. So what you're going to want to do is get yourself a pick, something like this. I prefer one with a little bend in it, so it's easier to get in there. And then we're going to pry this clip out like that. Alrighty, now you want to get yourself some sort of fluid drain or floor pan or something. Now that we got it unlocked, we're going to take our fork tool and push it up and out. What the heck? It didn't piss any fluid out. That's strange. Every one I've ever done, it'll always just piss down the side of the trans. What the hell? Well, I'm not mad about it. I is just confused. That's one. And that's 2. There she goes. There we go. Transmission one removed. Alright guys, we finally got the transmission out. That's over here. And you can take a peek at what we're doing back here now. So here's the factory clutch, just a single disc unit. And I'm gonna take this off, take the pressure plate and the clutch and all that out, and then take the flywheel off. And then I'll probably remove this plate for now so I can just have it out of my way. Alright, now we're gonna take the pressure plate off. These are gonna be 13s. Alright guys, now you can tell this clutch still got plenty of life on it. That's not why we're changing it. We're just kind of doing it because we're here, you know, you may as well. 15,000 miles. But out with the old, in with the new, I suppose. Now we're gonna pop this flywheel off. There we go. Alrighty, so here is the head cooling mod. This is gonna be for your driver's side cylinder head. This will be for the passenger. Tons of new bolts for it. And basically it's got an O-ring on the back to seal it. Personally, I'm probably gonna put some RTV on it, just because it's the back of the cylinder head. You don't want that leaking. So if I'm here, I might as well do it. Then it's got the hose that goes in between the two ports, and that's basically how it circulates that fluid through it to keep it cool. So first we're gonna stick that there. The roof.
It was at this moment that he knew he fucked up.
There it goes. Made it drain pan. Completely forgot about that part. I had it drained, so I was hoping it didn't have that much fluid in the head, but I was wrong. So you're gonna want a drain pan. So good to know. All right, guys. You see how it's pivoted in there like that? Now you're gonna want to take your pair of pliers. Just kind of rock it back and forth. Like so. Boom. There's one. Alright. So I got that side out as well. Now, like I said, what you're going to want to do is take yourself a Scotch-Brite pad and just try to clean up the inside of that so it has a good surface to adhere to. And then you're going to want to do that same thing on the other side. Alright guys, so we got one side in. I set it up with some silicone and I torqued it to 89 inch-pounds because per MMR there is no instructions, and based on that bolt typically it's an 89 inch-pound situation. So that's what I did. I set that one up nicely, so I'm gonna show you guys how to set up the second one, which is basically the same. It is the same thing for the other one. So all right guys, you're gonna get yourself a little bit of silicone on your finger. You don't have to do this, I just figure I don't want this thing leaking. So, and a little bit of silicone goes a long way. You don't need a frick ton of the stuff. Alrighty, now you're gonna take the rubber part of your hammer, try to tap her in there until she seats. Like so. And you're going to want to make sure you thread your bolt a couple of threads before you do that. It isn't gonna want to turn after you seat it. So that's what I did. Put this on there first. Screw it down by hand so I'm not sitting here for 10 years. Okay. Now we're gonna take our torque wrench, set to 89 inch-pounds. Get her torque down. And 89. Alright guys, I got both of them in there now. Now the only thing we have to do is attach the hose that runs to either side. But I was looking at it off camera, and they supply you with like way more hose than you're ever gonna need. Like, it's gonna be sticking way up there, so I'm gonna trim it down. I made a mark on it right there. I want to trim that down, and then we're gonna stick her on there. All right, now what I'm gonna do to make this easier for me to put it on is I'm gonna lubricate it with a little bit of tranny fluid on my pinky. Stick that in the hole on both sides. Hope that'll help us put that on there. Alrighty, so I think I'm gonna run this back behind here. Okay, and then on this side. Whew. And we're on there. And just like that, the head cooling mod is done. Allegedly, from every video I've seen online, nobody puts clamps on these. Apparently the barb is enough to hold it, but I don't know if I trust it, so I might put some on there just to be on the safe side, considering the only way you can reach this is by either A, pulling the motor, or B, removing the transmission. So I think I'm gonna get some clamps just to be safe. Clamps! But I think I'm gonna do that, and then all we gotta do is put the new flywheel and clutch, and we start throwing this sucker back together. So now we're gonna tackle this guy, because he's got a new line for the clutch, and already obviously got this side disconnected, and I believe the top side goes to the master, so we're gonna lower it down and go do that now. All right guys, so I forgot about this before I go take care of this line. This connector, as you see, I got it in there now, but it has this little piece of plastic that's there to keep it turned. Well, with that on there, you can't get that in, and even after you get it off, it still doesn't go in. So you have to take this bolt out, then you'll be able to turn the whole thing and then pull out on it just a tiny bit, not too much. You don't want to break your crank sensor, but that's how I did it. I was able to just barely sneak it in there, and now we're able to put this bolt back in. So just so you know, that's how you do that. All right guys, we're gonna go ahead, add some thread sealant to these fittings. We got it sealed and attached. So now we gotta do this side. All we got is this liquid stuff here, so I'm using what I've got at my disposal. Then you're gonna need a 13 and a 15. 13 is gonna go on the black fitting side, and then 15 is gonna go on the line side. Okay. Good there, both sides connected. Now over at the car, if you follow up your line, you can see it down there. It runs down there and around the booster, and boom, right there. And it's gonna be the same deal. You're gonna disconnect it with a fork, or not a fork tool, a pick. Disconnect it there, and then we're gonna attach our new one and route it down. Now you're going to want to route this down. And a sticker in the hole, like so. And boom, she's secured in there. You're gonna want to route it, as you see how it's laying on that steering shaft. We're gonna want to route it in a way to where it's not gonna touch nothing. Alrighty. Now, you see that harness that goes into the back of the valve cover right there? You can stick it right through that hole. It'll keep it up enough to where it doesn't touch anything that moves. So that should be just fine. Now let's lift this thing up in the air and we will get started with the clutch and flywheel and everything else. Also, I just noticed this on the transmission. You see why we tape it up? You see where it was rubbing? Now all those threads are protected. That's why you do that, boys. One last thing. So, that ground that we took off of here, you gotta find a place to put that. So, luckily this one's a blower car, so I found a nice little spot right there to put that. But if it's not, I don't really know where you could put that thing. Maybe it's different with a naturally aspirated car, I'm not sure. All right, now we're gonna start prepping the flywheel. It comes with these that we have to install into the flywheel, but before we do that, it comes with packaging grease all over it, so you wanna spray all that off. As long as you don't have to, it's just something I prefer to do. I'm here, I might as well do it, you know. All right guys, for this flywheel, you have these 3 little pivot things you gotta put in there that basically align that gold plate for the clutch. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. All right, we got the flywheel in now. Everything's torqued. My camera was not on, I thought it was, but anyway, it's on. We got these guys in there. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is grab your alignment tool with your clutch disc that says flywheel side on it, right here. And then you're going to stick that into your hole for your pilot bearing. And then you're going to take your plate and sit it on those dowels, like so. Okay, now we're gonna put these bolts in. Just hand tight for now, so it don't go nowhere. Alright, so a little trick for the bolt here. You can put a eyeball teeth, and you actually be able to torque it. 54 foot-pounds. Should be all of them. Cool. Alrighty, we gotta throw the pressure plate on. Now, as long as you see both of these discs moving, then you know you're back in there. It takes a little bit, but it's not too bad. I want to make sure that painted line is marked or is lined up. That's the only other thing. Now we can throw some nuts on this and tighten it down evenly in a cross pattern, and we'll be good. Alright, now we're going to put our washers on and then our nuts. The gold ones are going to go first. And there's 6 of each. Then we're going to put our lock washers on. And now the nuts. Now we just got to torque them down in a cross pattern. Now I know because I bought this same exact clutch for my car, we're going to want to make sure, you see See how it sags down like that? You're going to want to try to hold it in the center as you tighten these down, or it's going to be a bitch and a half trying to get that transmission input shaft spline. Okay, I just went ahead and did that because I needed two hands, but you see how it's more in the center? That's what you're looking for. And just like that, we're good. Ready to pull this guy out. Straight as an arrow through there. Alright, now it's time to put this transmission back in. So I'm probably going to put the guys on time lapse because this thing's always fighting. So, yeah. Alright guys, we got the transmission back in. Now it's just time to throw all the stuff we just got done taking off back on. So I already started putting that O2 back in, but I'll probably set you up for a quick little time lapse. Just slapping this guy together and see if we can get her running today. So I'll see you then. Alright guys, we made some pretty good headway. Transmission parts are all back in, starters in, bolts are in, everything's in, drive shaft's in. Only thing we don't have on it is the exhaust. And that's because those nuts were so stuck on there. When I heated them up, they were just rusted and they destroyed the end of this one, the threads on that one, more on this one, and just barely on that one. This one probably would be fine, but I'm gonna have to cut all these out and put new bolts and nuts in it. But it is going on 4 o'clock. I came in on my Saturday off. It's 3:55 right now. So unfortunately, we got this close. Yeah, we were a nipple hair close, but sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles. I'm not too upset about it, considering I got this car on Tuesday. It is now Saturday. I've got the oil pump gears done. I've got the clutch, flywheel, head cooling mod, the clutch line, literally everything is done, and all I gotta do is throw a couple parts on it and it's done. So if we're open Sunday, I'd be coming over here tomorrow too, but we're not. So I'll probably finish it first thing on Monday, and then we'll finally get to take this thing for a rip as safely as possible, because it is a new clutch, so we can't exactly go full balls to the wall just yet, and it's not my car. So but maybe I'll talk to the owner and he'll let me get into it a little bit. We'll see. But that's gonna be it for today. I will see you guys on Monday when I come back. But yeah, I will see you in the next clip. All right guys, we got the exhaust all back on. These guys are finicky, so you want to make sure you tighten these more than you probably think you should, or they'll fall off. I had to put all new bolts in it because, like I showed you before, they were all destroyed and marred up from the old stuff. So put some new nuts and bolts with washers in there. So now all we gotta do is lower it down and fill it with fluid. Guys, she's alive. Put the coolant in her. Still gotta bleed the clutch, but I'll save that for last. It was running a little rough I never touched this, but for some reason it was loose and it was off a little bit, so the mass airflow didn't know what it was doing. Which I find odd because every other time we started it didn't act weird, but oh well. We got mess came off somehow, but it's tight now, so. Alright guys, now we're bleeding the clutch. So first step, you're gonna take your cap off. Then you're gonna get some sort of device. This is what I'm using. And then you're gonna tighten that onto your reservoir. Basically what this is doing is just making that tight so you can actually pull a vacuum on this. And then you're gonna grab some sort of suitable tool. I'm using the Mighty Vac. It's just a cheap little kit, and that's gonna go in there like that. You're gonna pump this up until you're at 15 to 20 inches of vacuum. Boom, there's 20. And you're gonna let that sit for 1 minute. So I'll be back after a minute. Alright, now I took it off. All I did was take that piece off. You release the vacuum quickly, and then you check your fluid, it's still good. Then you put your cap back on, get in the car and pump the brake pedal. Listen to me. Pump the clutch pedal 10 to 12 times, and you repeat that process over and over until you get the clutch feel that you're looking for. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. All right, not that you can see this, but 1, 2, 3, 19, 20. I like to do 20. All right. And now we're just gonna repeat that process again until we get to the pedal that we're looking for. So I'll probably do it like 2 or 3 more times, and then we're gonna see how she engages and disengages up on the rack. All right guys, now we're gonna hop in it and see if she moves up on the rack. Clutch in. First gear. Try reverse for funsies. Hey. We're good, brothers. We're good. Now we got to put this thing back together. So if you remember when I was taking it apart, I said, well, that's not in there right. You take a look at this rubber boot. This is what keeps out all the noise and odor. So you see how it's got 2 little lips there? That bottom lip's gonna go on the underside of the body metal right there, and then the top lip is gonna go on the top, and that's what seals it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. It just kind of takes a little bit of working it, and then you can get it in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. All right guys, you see how it's flat going all the way around it? No gaps, and it actually stays in there. It's not just flopping around. Now that's sealed. So now we're gonna take this piece and throw it back in. Alrighty, now we got that in. Now we gotta throw the center console in. Plug in all our connectors, and then we can throw our shift knob on, and then we're literally done. Alrighty guys, now we're gonna put the shift knob on and the adapter 4-set shift knob. So just gonna slap that on there, screw it down. Now you're gonna wanna make sure that boot is straight as you tighten this, which I can't quite do with 2 hands. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this tightened up. By the way, this is a 15mm for this, so you can tighten that. And then you throw your shift knob on and you're good. Alrighty, now we got it on there. All you really need to do is make sure that ball is straight, which as far as I can tell, it seems straight. So she's tight, that's tight. You can shift in and out of gear, that's all that matters, right? Now if this was a S550 or maybe a shifter that has a reverse lockout with the pull-up collar, that procedure would be a little bit different, but we don't got to worry about that on this one, luckily. So yeah, we're all good to go. All right guys, we're going for the test drive, so let's get to it. So far, so good. I know we've only moved like 30 feet, but we're gonna go up on our gauges and take a look at our oil pressure just to make sure we're good. Right now it's at normal, so we're good. Now I did talk to the owner of this car. Go ahead and roll the window up so you guys can hear me. I did talk to the owner of this car. And currently he is going to be out of state until the end of the week, so he gave me permission to put some brake-in miles on this clutch, and he also gave me permission to let her to basically let her rip bar to ski. Like, I can just give her all hell if I want to, so that's a plus. But I'm gonna wait until we get at least 250 miles on this clutch. I believe they say it's supposed to be around 500, but I know that's what I did on mine because I couldn't wait. And it was just fine, so I figure 250 miles should be more than enough to get this sucker going. And then we can give her all hell, but this is just gonna be nice and chill. No crazy 8,000 RPM rips. We're just gonna putt along a little bit, but so far everything's good. Coolant temp's good, oil pressure's good, sounds good. That's a 3 trio right there, so we're good, bud. But yeah, it was a hectic couple of days. I tell you what, most part it went pretty smoothly, but some things just wanted to fight, clearly, as I showed you guys. But yeah, it's a fun car, I'll give it that. I mean, we'll know for sure once we're able to rev this sucker up to the moon. But man, this thing just takes me back from which you guys never saw, actually. If you go back on my Instagram, you can see it, but I had a 2013 just like this, premium. It's basically identical, except this one's black and has a fucking supercharger on it, but and this one has a heck of a lot less miles. I still can't believe this thing's only got 15K on it for the year. That's insane. I gotta tell you what, James, that's the guy that owns this car. I don't know if you don't drive it or what, or you just store it in a garage. The amount of spider webs I found under this thing is just not right. So you're gonna have to give her a good old ripski for me once you get this car back. But yeah, other than that, we're about to hop up on the highway right now and see what the sucker's like at highway speed. I imagine it's probably gonna be just fine. Clutch feels okay. But luckily, I'm going to be driving it for a couple days, so if I have to bleed it again, that's just fine. Tell you what, these Roush Exhausts sound really good. I mean, it's nowhere near as loud as my car, but this is perfectly okay. You can have this without pissing people off. I just want to punch it so bad. But it's going to take every ounce of, what's the word? What's the word? Tank brain. Shit. I'm going to have to hold myself back this whole week to keep myself from ripping on this thing. At least until I get 250 miles on it. Which I don't know if it'll even hit that by the end of the week, but we will see. I have a trip odometer set, one for the oil change I just did, and two so we know how much miles we're putting on the car. So yeah, we're doing 70 mile an hour. Now in 6th gear. Seems to be engaging, disengaging properly. So would say we should be just fine to give us back to James, no problem. So I'm gonna finish up this test drive and I'll see you guys back at the shop. All right guys, we made it back to the shop, but yeah, that's it. The car's doing great. Stay tuned for the next video. That's the video when we're gonna rip the absolute shit out of that car per the customer's request. So if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.